Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of We Are Listening. This is where our monthly online salon where we center Blackness and talk about the performing arts world through the perspective and lenses of those who consider themselves on the melanated side of things. My name is Ahmed Dents. My name is Ahmed Dents, Director of Venue Experience here at San Diego Repertory Theatre, and we do appreciate you being here with us. We have a spectacular episode coming up for you tonight, and a spectacular guest making his return to talk to me and Jacole again. Very quickly, before we get things started, just a reminder that We Are Listening is produced by San Diego Repertory Theatre in partnership with the Old Globe and La Jolla Playhouse. And as we get ready to get started, I would like to read our land acknowledgement to you. If you would like to read our full land acknowledgement, please head on over to what you see on the screen right now, sdrep.org/acknowledgement. San Diego Rep would like to acknowledge that the Lyceum Theater is built on the traditional lands of the Ipai Tipai Kumeyaay Nation, translated as the people who overlook the ocean from the cliffs. We also want to recognize their neighbors in the region, the Payakwechum, the Kawiha, and the Capeño. San Diego Rep honors the over 20,000 current tribal members living in our area and elevates local elders past, present, and future. We respectfully acknowledge these community members for their tremendous contributions to our region and thank them for their continued stewardship. Again, to read an extended version of our land acknowledgement, please head on over to sdrep.org/acknowledgement. And you can also check out this beautiful map of indigenous tribal territory created by Paul Cannon. Again, welcome to We Are Listening. We're going to go ahead and get things rolling right now. I want to give a big shout out to my colleague here at San Diego Repertory Theatre, Candace Crystal, for filling in our last episode when we talked to Rebecca Smaga Frank. You can catch that episode on our YouTube page at La Jolla Playhouse's YouTube page, and of course on Spotify in the We Are Listening podcast. But right now, I would like to bring back my partner in crime in this thing. You know who she is. She is the Director of Arts Engagement and In-House Casting at La Jolla Playhouse. Please welcome Jacole Kitchen. Jacole, what's up and welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Ooh, see, I'm overclamped. I missed y'all. I missed y'all so much last week. I got all choked up. I missed you all last month. I know Candace held it down for me with such a fantastic conversation. But I'm back, y'all. I was not going to miss this one. I got my Sealy on. Nothing but death would keep me from it. So glad to be back just in time for this conversation with Sheldon.
Cool. Well, welcome back, Jacole. Yeah, this is going to be another good one. You know how it is when we talk to this gentleman all the time. So we are going to have a good one really quick. And I know we both going to run through this quickly. Why don't you let us know what's going on over at the Playhouse?
Yeah, main things to know. Lempicka is kicking off our 2022-23 season, June 14th through July 24th in the Weiss Theater. Eden Espinosa as Tamara de Lempicka, with several of our San Diego local favorites, including We Are Listening super fan, Victor Chan. Shout out to Victor. The only reason he's probably not here is because he's in rehearsal, but it's Monday night. I bet Victor's going to be watching somehow. So super fan, Victor, go see him in Lempicka with many, many others. Phenomenal show. And then Hoopla, the pop tour for this year that was able to only tour schools for only a month this year, where the pop tour normally tours for 3 months. But guess what? You can still see it. It is available to stream for free through, I didn't write it down, May 27th, I want to say, because I'd be remembering things. So you can still see the pop tour with your families. It is phenomenal, by Cheryl L. West, directed by our very own Black Girl Magic, Delicia Turner Sonnenberg. All of this available on our website, lajollaplayhouse.org. Ahmed, what's going on at the Rep?
Thank you very much, Jacole. I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk real quick about the Globe, our other partner in crime here in We Are Listening. And over at the Old Globe, starting on June 21st, Freestyle Love Supreme. Kevin just told me there was a documentary. You know me in documentaries. I don't know how I missed this one, so I think I know what I'll be watching tonight. He said it was an excellent documentary. This is going on at the Globe in the Donald and Darlene Shiley stage. Again, June 21st through July 10th. Head on over to the oldglobe.org. And really quickly, over this way at San Diego Repertory Theatre, beginning on May 26th, our production of In Every Generation will be showing in the Lyceum Space Theater. It is written by Ali Viterbi, directed by Todd Salovey and Emily Moeller. Again, that is May 26th through June 19th in the Lyceum space. And then also, this is actually kind of part of this. It is the 29th annual Lipinski Family Jewish Arts Festival for 2022. Events run from May through July. It celebrates Jewish heritage, culture, art, and ideas. This summer of the 29th annual Lipinski Family Jewish Arts Festival, there are a lot of events. I can't name them all. Just please head over to our website, sdrep.org/JFest. And one more announcement, you can catch all of our episodes of We Are Listening from the very beginning by either visiting the San Diego Repertory Theatre YouTube page, the La Jolla Playhouse YouTube page, and also for you audiophiles like me, you can head on over to Spotify, search We Are Listening, and you have our whole library there for you to listen to at your convenience. So please go back, and especially go back and listen to episode number 7, because that was the first conversation with the gentleman that we are about to bring on right now. We're going to make this, we always tell everyone to give us a little bit of an introduction themselves, but most of y'all watching know who this gentleman is. Used to be the artistic director at the Pasadena Playhouse. Right now, the senior artistic advisor at the Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Please welcome back to We Are Listening, Mr. Sheldon Epps.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
Hey, Sheldon.
Welcome, Sheldon.
Good to see you. Good to be back. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. A beautiful day up here in Pasadena, as I'm sure it is in San Diego. Yeah. You all got it going on in San Diego. It's great to hear about all that activity in my old stomping ground.
Yeah, we're keeping it going. We're keeping it rolling, Sheldon.
Yes, you are. That's great. Wonderful.
Well, Sheldon, thank you again for coming back to talk to us and talk to our audience. We appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us. So, since the last time, has it been almost 2 years, I think, or maybe a year and a half, or almost 2 years since?
Wow.
Who knows that? 2019 to 2022 was just kind of like.
I know. Time is so strange these last few years, right? I mean, it either feels like it was forever ago or it was yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
exactly.
When I have such a hard time when anybody asks me about the year something happened over the last 3 years. I have to struggle with what year was that? 2020, 19, 25.
Exactly.
Well, I think the last time we talked to you, you were just about to step into your role at the Ford's Theater in DC. So maybe we can pick up from there, just over just over the last year and a half, 2 years. So much has gone on, even in the pandemic, and it was a new post for you and a new environment that you were stepping into. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that because that's a strange time to be stepping into a new role in the world. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about stepping into that and what your experience has been like?
Right. It was a bit of a strange time, but in some ways, and I think this is true about a lot of what's gone on in the American theater, it was also a helpful time in that the theater was not in production. When we get into the mode that we're in now, as you all just talked about, it's all about, okay, what's on tonight and what are we going into rehearsal for and what are we planning for next season? So it's very, very production focused. And when I started in the position at the Globe, like everybody else, the theater was closed. So that really gave us a lot of time to just consider the future. Not worry so much about tonight or next week, but to look forward and to plan forward. And we've really done that. We started a commissioning program, which the theater has never had, and certainly never had specifically for BIPOC writers. And we've commissioned some wonderful writers and are planning, as part of the season, actually, a festival of those plays in the 23-24 season. See, what did I say about the year? The 22-23 season, exactly. Next season, 22-23. And that's a bit of a scoop because we haven't really announced that yet, but that's actually going to be part of the regular main stage season. And then I was able to reopen the theater with a production of a play called My Lord, What a Night, which is a pretty fascinating play about the relationship between Marian Anderson, the opera singer, and Albert Einstein. And everybody thinks this is some made up encounter, but the truth is that they were very, very, very close friends over many, many years. And the play starts on the night that they met, the beginning of their friendship, and goes through a 3 or 4 year cycle that was in which they both faced pretty significant events in their life, including obviously the concert at the Lincoln Memorial. So reopening the theater with that and rehearsing during a time when everything looked so optimistic. And in fact, we were very, very lucky with that. We got through the run with no COVID incidents and good audiences. In fact, theaters in San Diego probably have faced the same thing. We projected very low attendance, very low sales, and actually exceeded our projections, which was great, and got through the run. And now we seem to be swinging backwards as, theaters are having to cancel performances. And the last show that I did at a theater called People's Light, we actually had to cancel the last week of performances because we just got whacked with a COVID wave right before the last week. But the work at Ford's has been great and busy and wonderful. And I think Ford's is an evolving theater, evolving into something more wonderful than it has been for many years. And really coming out of that period where we all grappled with issues that we're so familiar with and had all of those conversations, the theater is really reflecting those conversations with action on the stage, behind the scenes, in the offices, all of that. So I'm very proud of where we are.
Thanks for that, Sheldon. And I realized with a very quick Google search of We Are Listening, episode 7, that it was September 11th, 2020, last time we all had this conversation. So just about a year and a half.
Right.
You talked about reflecting with action, that a lot of the theaters are reflecting with action, and we are seeing it in a lot of really, really positive ways. And one of the things that I just wanted to talk about is now that we are reopening, now that we are welcoming audiences back. Yes, as you say, we're starting to see another wave of things, but we have a little bit more intelligence on how to grapple with these things. So I guess my question is really, what do you feel like has changed? And it's a loaded question because I wonder what has actually changed, what feels like it's changed but maybe hasn't, and then are there things that changed but changed back in the year and a half that we've been doing this?
Yeah, I will say in my experience that the one thing that has not changed very much, and it's remarkable to me that it hasn't changed considering all the stuff that surrounds it, is the thing that has not changed is the work process. Even though we have all of this testing and mask wearing and the constant sort of cloud of possibilities that's around us when we go into rehearsal rooms, I'm amazed that the work process is the same great, wonderful process that we had before. That people come in and they come in to get through all of that stuff, to work hard, to make those plays, make those musicals, make that art on the stage in the same way that they did before. And I have every cast that I've worked with since we've reopened. I've expressed my deep gratitude for the fact that people are able to do that. This work, as we all know, is always hard. It was hard before. So then you add on to that, and you got to come in half an hour early to be tested twice a week, 3 times a week. And you got to wear a mask when you're not actually in the confines of the taped out stuff on the floor. and you got to be worried if somebody sneezes. It's remarkable to me that in spite of all of that, or in addition to all of that stuff, people come in and they just do the work, and they do it extremely well. The thing
and are
that
maybe even a little bit more grateful to be there.
yeah, absolutely, grateful to have the opportunity to be at work again, and not just
Exactly.
for the money, but for the sake of the creation.
Exactly.
The thing that I think has interestingly changed, and then changed again, and now maybe we're a little bit back where we were, is during the dark period, as I will say, using a theatrical phrase, when we were all dark for so long. Hi, Barry. Hello. A little message from one of my oldest friends, Barry Pearl. Hi. During that time, I think we were all really worried. Would anybody ever come back to the theater again? You know, would we ever be able to get people feeling safe enough and dealing with those precautions enough that they'd be willing to come to the theater? Mm-hmm. The nice surprise, as I said at Ford's, was that people were willing, not in the same numbers as they were coming before, but in more numbers than we anticipated. And I think that sort of was growing through the fall of last year. And then we got walloped again by Omicron and another variant. And I think people got scared off again. And you saw numbers dipping. And I was hearing about theaters that hold 300, 400 people having audiences of 50 or audiences of 25, which just broke my heart, you know. Both on an economic basis, but because we know that affects the experience, that affects the energy in the room, and we all want to play to full houses for all kind of reasons. And now, slowly, I think we're creeping back to a little more feeling of safety, but I unfortunately think that cloud of fear is always going to be with many, many people. And it's going to be a long time before all of those people who were coming to the theater before feel safe enough and at ease enough. I think that's what it is. It's not a matter of safety, but relaxed and at ease, which interestingly is the way you want an actor on stage to be, feeling safe and at ease and comfortable and open to doing the work and having the experience night to night. And I wonder what we can do, how we can make that possible for the greatest number of people who love coming to the theater to return and feel at ease sitting in our theaters. And I think that's a challenge. That's a challenge that we're still facing and will face for a while.
Yeah, I think it's been, you know, coming from the front of house perspective, it's definitely been a challenge, and in being able to hear the wide range of concerns and just the range from one aspect to another of dealing with audiences, and then we finally found our place like in this middle ground where it was like the audience was like, yes, ease restrictions, but then the audience others no, and now we're in this weird place to where, like you said, I guess it's no mystery. We've all been working together to help get audiences into each other's houses, because it has just been that, like, what is the audience going to look like? We don't have a house tonight. How do we pay for this thing? And we know it is, like you said, not fear, but just that uneasiness to be back in this space, close and intimate to people again. So yeah, it's definitely felt, you know, industry wide.
Right. Now, on the other hand, as one who always likes to be optimistic about these things, I'm amazed at how many people are willing to go through all of that stuff you have to go through now and sit in the theater. I went to see the Lehman trilogy at the Amundsen a couple of weeks ago. That's a 3-hour and 20-minute play, you know. So in addition to all the stuff you have to do to get in with vaccine checks and, you know, paying for your ticket and all of that, you have to sit there for 3 hours and 20 minutes with your mask on. And everybody did it. Looking around, everybody did it. You get real grateful for intermission, so you can run out there that side door and take that off for a minute and get some breath of fresh air. But the passion and dedication of our audiences right now, that they're willing and wanting to go through all of that because they want to have the theater experience. And though there are some small houses, there are full houses. And I think that's remarkable, and we got to celebrate that as well. That says something about the intense passion that people have for our art form and their desire to be in the room where it happens.
Yeah, Sheldon, we saw the exact same thing over at the Playhouse, and we, started back. Our first thing back was Charlene Woodard's The Garden.
Yeah.
Two-hander, 90 minutes. You had to remind people to put their masks back up, but people were willing to do it. And we're like, okay. And can I tell you how happy I was with that show? And I did a lot of the talkbacks and a lot of things. So I was there for a lot of it. I helped jump in with tech. So I was there for all the previews. Every time I saw well-dressed Black women with hats walking in the theater, I knew it was going to be a good performance.
Yes,
I knew it was going to be a good show.
Yeah.
But we're seeing this greater spattering of people of color, and it's just like, okay, I see us. Okay, 90 minutes, two-hander, we got this. But then we saw the same thing for Kimberly's To the Yellow House, which was not 90 minutes. Same, it was a good 3-hour play, all things said and done, with intermission. And we're going, oh, okay, are they gonna do this now?
Right.
And they did.
Yeah.
And they did, because they want to be back. And even we were dying because people were staying for the talkbacks too. I'm like, you on a Tuesday night, I gave such props to our Talkback Tuesday audiences. I was like, y'all are in for a 4-hour night at the theater by the time you came here and got your pre-show drinks. But they were there for it, because we're hungry for it, and just to have that connection again, to gasp with strangers, we've missed that.
Right. So as much as we honestly have to say it is challenging, and we have to push even harder than we ever did before, at least we know it's possible. At least we know that passion and that willingness to go on the ride is still there, and we should all be very moved by that and optimistic, I think.
Yeah. How was it for you? Just even though all that is the backdrop of what we do, how was it for you personally stepping in to this role and stepping into this theater out there in DC? Like, what was that personal journey for you, and right when it was time to go ahead and get started doing this thing?
Well, it was funny because I actually went back to work pretty quickly doing television. By October of 2020, I was back at work on the Upshaws, the series I've been doing on Netflix with Wanda Sykes and Kim Fields and Mike Epps. So I was kind of used to working in television, but like all of us, we had done everything this way, with conversations and readings and workshops, and all of that was all by Zoom. So I remember the week before I started rehearsal for My Lord, What a Night, thinking, oh, what are all those things you have to do when you're actually in the room together? What about that meet and greet? How are we going to do that? And what about that design presentation? So it was, it was a little bit, after all these years of directing at the theater, it was a little bit like a babe in the woods. Like, do I remember how to do all of this? Yes. Do I remember how to be around all of those people and talk to stage managers and make a schedule and think about all of those things? It was a little Twilight Zone-ish, I have to say, because I just hadn't had that experience in the theater in a long time. And then, as I said, I always feel a combination of joy and trepidation every time I start rehearsal for something. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity, but I'm always thinking, do I know what this play is about, and do I have any idea about how to do it?
Mm-hmm.
But then you also have to think, and what if someone gets sick? What if I get sick? With all of these precautions, suppose somebody goes out to dinner after rehearsal and comes back 2 days later, and we're in the midst of a hurricane because we got to replace people. So it was loaded with a sense of wonder that we were able to do it again. Some question marks about remembering how we do it. Gratefulness, as we talked about, for having the opportunity to do it again, but an extra load of trepidation, an extra load of not just trepidation about the process, but literally about everybody's health, everybody's well-being, everybody's wellness, As I said, I think as a director, one of your jobs is always to make everybody in the room feel safe. Everybody, actors certainly, but also stage managers, designers, production assistants. Well, you also literally had to find the ways, theaters had to find the ways to make everybody feel safe enough to be there. And that was a lot. Thank God for those COVID officers at all the theaters who carried that tremendous burden so bravely and deal with all those swabs and those tests. Sarah, the woman who does it at Ford's, I just marvel that she was able to, number one, keep track of it all, but do it all. It's amazing. So it was a combination of a lot of things. I have to say, I did that production at Ford's, and then I did another production, as I said, at People's Light, and it was a lot easier the second time because I had been through it, and so many of the other people I was working with had been through it. So it felt a little bit more relaxed. But then, as I said, not during rehearsal, but during the run, we got walloped, and not through any carelessness on anyone's part, but just because this thing is still with us.
Yeah. I agree with you completely about what is it like to be in a room again? Trying to our first in-person casting sessions. We're what do we need? Oh, sign-in sheet, because they're coming, so they'll need to sign in.
They're actually going to be here.
They're going to do, and signs. They'll want pieces of paper. Okay, we can do that. Right. We can do that. So, and I will say one of the things from the casting perspective that has opened, I think, there's so much access has opened up to people of color because the process has opened up. So much of it is done online. We've taken down a lot of those sort of audition barriers, I think, to getting people on stage. I think a lot of theaters really are walking the talk and putting on plays of people of color and bringing on directors and designers of color. I'm curious if you have seen any change in the access for audiences of color as we're talking about the way that we are welcoming people back and having to change so much about our processes and get ourselves and our audiences used to. Now we're checking your vaccine. Now we're doing that. Do you see that? Do you feel like access has changed for people of color or for audiences of color?
During the pandemic, I was on a couple of panels about the revolution in American theater, a revolution from my point of view that's been going on for 50 years, not 3 years, and conversations that I've been having personally for 25 years. And one of the things that I said was, when everybody was talking about getting audiences of color into their theaters and, what do you do? What kind of plays do you do? And what kind of access do you provide? One of the things I said is, you have to realize that audiences of color, before they feel safe about what's on the stage, they have to feel safe in your building. You have to be very clear and say, this is your home as well. You know, this is not my building and I'm letting you in. This is our home, and I am serious about wanting you in this building, because in our DNA, we people with the melanin, in our DNA is no. This ain't for you. Don't come in here. You know, so you have to realize that that's been going on for decades and decades. So before you even think about what you can do on the stage, think about truly opening the door and letting people know that you mean it. And those are two different things. To overcome that stuff that's in our DNA, you can't just open the door. You have to really let people know that you mean it. And I do see theaters making a more profound effort about that. And really, it's not even extending a welcome, it's extending a sense of total collaboration. You know, that we are indeed all in this together. And that this space is, this is not a castle in the hill and I'm giving you permission to climb the hill and get in here. You know, this is our house. This is genuinely our house. And I want you to take advantage of the fact that this is your house as well as mine, and be part of this family. I think there are varying degrees of success about that. Some theaters are far more successful at it than others. There is still lip service to it, or there is a genuine commitment to it. But genuine commitment to it takes a lot of effort when you're already making all of those other efforts that you have to make. But that's the test of how sincere a theater is, how sincere a theater's leadership and staff is. Do they make that extra effort or not? And it's not something that you can necessarily read about or take surveys about. It's something you can feel. You know, we can feel when an audience of color is actually comfortable in the theater, or if they're a little skittish and nervous about being there.
You know, Sheldon, it's so profound that you say that, because that's what I do. My main responsibility is the house and what we do to welcome people into the theater. Yeah. And, you know, of course, like many theaters during COVID, during the pandemic, most of your staff was gone. Most of your staff was furloughed or laid off. And so it was a whole rebuilding, you know, of the house staff here. And it's no secret that, you know, the new staff that came on was a little bit younger, a little more diverse than it was before. And as you're saying, as far as organizations make that move, there's a lot of apprehension that comes from audiences from that. Oh, because there are audiences who are used to seeing a certain type of people at the theater as well when they get there.
That's right.
They have issues when they come into the house and there's a new staff and they're younger and they look different than the old staff does.
Right.
And you have to take all that with a grain of salt. It's weird that you have to earn that type of trust, that you even have to like look at people and go like, no, we're fine. We're okay. We're going to treat you right. We're going to welcome you. We're going to take care of you. You know, I know we look different than the last crew, but we're still here. We care. We're going to take care of you. Yeah. And like you said, like this whole time, because of moving goalposts, you know, cases up, cases down, this, that, regulations up, regulations down, actors equity, this, that. It has been a real learning challenge every week of every performance as to what it's been to get an audience into the house and make them feel welcome, because so much has been out of our control. Right. So much has been reactionary to mask mandates and vaccine checkpoints and what is this and what is that. And the people in this year, I'm so glad you're doing all this. The people in this year, when are you guys going to be done? This is ridiculous. I just want to come watch.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You know. And you know, it's also such a delicate balance, you know, because there's also kind of otherism in treating me too well, you know, and thinking
right. Because there's some real skepticism when it's like, wait, why are they being so nice to me? Why did that lady just like offer me her chair? I'm just here, lady.
That's true. That's true. I'm just here trying to enjoy the play. You know, you don't have to also invite me to dinner at your house. You know,
Right.
you know, overcompensation can be as othering as putting a hand up in my face.
Absolutely.
So it's tricky, but it's a revolution, and revolutions take time and take sensitivity and take a learning curve, Ahmed, as you just said. But I do think the education process is happening certainly to a far greater degree than it was 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Ahmed.
Oh, just real quick, I wanted to because I want to get to talking about your memoir that's coming up.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you a question real quick about the television world, as you've been talking about your working in Upshaws. And I don't watch, I grew up as a kid. I watched way too much television. I don't watch much television. Like, I'm really directional in what I watch. But I want to get your thought on the landscape of television, especially from a Black perspective right now, because I see so many different types of shows out there. Like right now, I'm so locked into the Afro surrealism of Atlanta. Like, this season is blowing my mind with what they're doing. Abbott Elementary is blowing my mind with how hilarious it is and these characters. Can you talk to me a little bit about your thoughts of what you're seeing on the small screen?
Incredibly positive. I think the breadth of what you see from people of color on television now is amazing, and actually something of a model for the theater. That there is everything from Blackish to Abbott Elementary to Atlanta to the Upshaws, revealing us, all of us people of color, in all of our emotional dimensions. We aren't all funny, and we aren't all stupid, and we do have problems, and we're not just here to make you laugh. We can do that too, and we do that successfully. But even in a show like The Upshaws, a comedy, there are moments when we deliberately stop the laughter, and talk about depression. And talk seriously on a comedy about depression, and so I'm really proud of the fact that television has that incredible wide range of our people now, because within my lifetime, I can remember when you never saw that kind of range, Even when you were dealing with people of different economic strata, they all seem to be the same. Moving on up somehow didn't make them any different than Fred Sanford.
Right.
That was always a little weird to me, So the commitment to, I think it's a commitment to great writing, actually. And the only negative thing about it is that there are a lot of great playwrights who are now getting staffed on television shows and doing.
Tell me about it.
So hopefully we can still woo them back to the theater to write plays. But I think it is because theater producers, networks, all of that are smart enough to say, this is how we do it for real. Let's go after those great playwrights whose work we've seen and get them to create series. And that's where a lot of this wonderful work is coming from.
It's hard to get the playwrights back because a play is a lot more time and a lot more energy and work for a lot less money than doing some episodes of TV. It's hard, and it becomes hard from a theater who is doing new works. And really, it is a little bit tricky because we do want these playwrights of color and who are very sought out now in both worlds. And we're seeing it with designers. We're seeing it with a lot of folks where they're actors. So in demand, actors. But really, a lot of the actors aren't able to stretch quite as thin as some of the creatives are. an unfortunate trend that I'm afraid that we're seeing a little bit of is people being so overextended that they're not able to give 100% to any one project, and then they go, oh well, that person's problematic, we couldn't even get them for this whole period of time because they were doing this and that, you know. And I've been seeing that trend start to happen for, I feel like, the last couple of years, but especially I'm seeing it with playwrights working in TV.
Writers. No, I think those of us involved in running theaters have to lay on either the passion or the guilt as necessary with writers,
or put the money, or find some more
or find the money. And that's one of the great things that we've done at Ford's, is to come up with this commissioning program that gives people a healthy chunk of money to go off and write what they want to explore for the theater. So that, no doubt about it, that economics are a part of it, and finding the resources to keep people attracted to working in the theater is really important.
Agreed.
Let's talk a little bit about your memoir. Let's talk about what you got coming up. Whenever it drops, it's gonna be, I'm on it. I'm
yes.
Talk a little bit about what's going on and the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, it's hopefully is going to drop before the end of the summer, probably in August. It's a book called My Own Directions, and it's subtitled A Black Man's Journey in the American Theater. After your introduction, Ahmed, I was thinking maybe it should have been a Man of Melanin's journey. You have to check with the publisher.
My sister got me a T-shirt for my birthday that says "lightly melanated, hella black."
That's good. But I could use that too. And it's a chronicle, I guess, of my experience in the American theater, going way back to being one of the first people of color at Carnegie Mellon University, through my early days as an actor. There's a lot in there about San Diego, which, as you know, was my training ground for being an artistic director, working at the Old Globe Theater for 4 years, and some of the difficult issues that we faced during my time there, as we were just talking about, as someone who wanted not to be the only person of color in that courtyard at San Diego Rep, and not to be the only person of color in my courtyard at Pasadena Playhouse. And then a good deal of the book is about the very particular rewards and challenges of being a man of color who was an artistic director at a white theater, to be blunt, and a theater that had a history of not only being a white theater, but a very white theater. Right down to the fact that there was an article in my first month at the Playhouse of me being boiled in oil and rich Pasadenans dancing around the cauldron. Wow. I kid you not.
Wow.
So that's what that was like in 1997. So it's about that time of my life, which really was shockingly 2 decades of tremendous highs and lows, mostly highs, and things that I'm very, very proud of accomplishing, and setting a standard for other theaters to follow. And I've tried to make it entertaining, but also truthful, also honest. And it was a lot of digging, when you go back like that and really dig into where you were 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. It's rewarding, but tough. So I hope you'll read it.
Oh, for sure.
And Sheldon, you touched on something here that we talked a little bit about in our first conversation, and it's really building staffs of color and not being the only, and especially in this climate, because we talk about, okay, well, what's changed? Well, a few things have changed. You know, Ahmed's in a new position at the Rep since the last time we talked. I've been promoted to director level at La Jolla Playhouse since the last time we talked. There's a lot of people of color that are being sought after, that are being hired, that are being taken for these positions.
Absolutely.
And how do you support, like I love this term, predominantly white institute. We didn't have that back in the day. We had to be like, no, they're white. You know, you act like you were like a white institution, but now we can just say it. It's a thing. It's a PWI.
Right.
You know,
the truth is the truth.
The truth is the truth.
Right.
But how can PWIs support? Because you have to start somewhere. So there may have to be some first. There may have to be, hopefully not an only, but you know, you have to start somewhere. So how does an institution support those early change makers that they're bringing on? Especially because I would think if an institution is bringing on, you know, somebody like me, somebody like you, we're change makers, and you're bringing me into this. You got to be ready to change. How do you support those people who you're bringing in when all of the things that we've talked about, when you're up against the board who may not be all that ready to change, you're up against the community who wants to fucking boil you in oil. That's my first F-bomb. I went through what is this? That was like 58 minutes.
Good.
And that was my first
you almost made it, Chicken.
I almost made it, but they boiled you in oil in a...
No.
Anyway, how does an institution support those early change makers that they're bringing on in this time?
Well, first of all, I have to say that I'm thrilled at all of the hiring at every level in theaters of people of color. I'm thrilled about that. But theaters do have to realize that it is a different journey, and that number one, there is a need for an additional level of support when you make that choice. You know, that here's the easiest way I can say it. White people get hired, and all they have to do is do the job and do the job well. People of color get hired, and they have to prove that they can do the job. And then they have to prove it again, and they have to prove it again, because in many people's heads, if you get hired, number one, and if you're good, many people believe that's a fluke. that you and Jacole lucked out somehow. It's not that you could possibly be good or know as much as you do. You just got lucky. So then you have to prove it and prove it again and prove it again. And I talk about that in the book, that, you know, in my 20th year, I was still proving to some people that I deserved to have the job as artistic director. That's a tremendous pressure. So theaters, artistic directors, executive directors, staffs, boards, everybody in the building has to contribute to that support system with an extra effort for a while, hopefully not forever, but for a while, to make it possible and to create a climate for people to succeed. Because whether you want to talk about it or not, a lot of people are waiting for you to fail. A lot of people are expecting you to fail and waiting for it so they can get rid of you and say, we tried. We don't have to do that anymore because we tried. So there is an extra effort that must be exerted in support of creating an environment for people of color, not just to be hired, but to succeed and thrive. Because we do have an awful lot to give, but the atmosphere must be there to allow us to give it, you know. And that rock of resistance that you first meet can be insurmountable unless you get a lot of help in dismantling it. My sermon for the day.
Well, Sheldon, we know we're running down. We know you got a heart out. Jacole, anything else you want to close out with? Any other question or comment you have for Sheldon before he walks out the room? You know he already knows.
I mean, of course. I have so many. I have so many. But what am I supposed to do in the next 5 minutes?
I'll come back again.
Yeah, you should come back after the memoir drops, and we should talk a little bit more about that. I think that that's a great time. I don't know. I literally, the only other thing on my list, and I don't know if there's time really to address it in this way, but again, of the changes that are making things, I love that we are rethinking so many things in American theater. And one of the things that's finally being talked about reimagining is the talk back. And we're talking about, you know, how do we shift up the talk back? And one of the things that a post-show talkback is not always a safe place for actors of color, especially Black actors, especially actors of color in predominantly white institutions. And so I love that we're rethinking it. Like one of the things I always say that one of the things that I do, I don't trust an audience with my actors of color. So I ask the questions. I get to make up the questions that get asked. And then I'll maybe throw to them at the end for one or two, so we don't have time for anything ignorant. But they'll always try and slip one in. But anyway, how do you have any thoughts on like on talkbacks or protecting artists of color in the talkback, or if there is still a place, if a need for that one-on-one connection with audience? Because we're talking about how do we change our audience? How do we change, you know, what we're seeing on stage? Anyway, any thought? That's the only other thing that I would love to talk about.
It's interesting, and you know, I think one thing that we've discovered over the last few years is language is so important. Somehow, talk back has kind of a negative, aggressive spin on it, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, I've never thought about that, but absolutely it does.
You stay after the show, and this is your chance to talk back to the artist. How about it's your chance to talk with the artist, you know, to be in conversation with, you know, to be in the kind of conversation that you would want from guests at your dinner party. You don't invite people over to your house so you can talk back to them. You know, you do it to talk with them. And I do think, you know, color apart, I think talkbacks are often sort of perceived in that way by those who stay for them. Well, it's my chance to talk back to you about what I didn't like. Well, don't come if that's what you if that's what you're coming for. You know, you go around the corner and talk to somebody else, because, you know, I'm perfectly willing in here to hear your thoughts and to be in conversation with you and to be in honest fellowship with you.
Yeah.
So maybe we need a little more, maybe we need new language about it and a little more education to audiences and to the artists about what's the purpose of this. You know, it's not to be an aggressive atmosphere. It's to be in conversation with, talk with me, not to me and not at me.
I love it. I love it. Yay, see, and we got to address that in 3 minutes. That's all we needed. Ahmed, back to you.
There you go. I knew we could do it.
Hey, Sheldon, again, this has been another spectacular conversation, and it is noted after that memoir drops, you know you're going to be getting an email from us.
I'll be there.
Come back so we can talk about it. We're going to thumb through it. Everybody, please make sure you get Sheldon's memoir when it drops this summer. Check it out so you can come back and we can have a book club conversation.
I was really thinking that. Like I think that a book club, I'm here for it. Yes.
And there's a lot of tea poured in this book. So
I'm here for it. Yes, our own little private book club.
We'll be
so
ready.
What did you think about when he said?
Yes, right.
Yeah. No, I would love that. I would be absolutely honored to be.
Well, I'll look forward to that. Thank you guys so much. It's been great to be with you.
Thank you, Sheldon. Everybody, it is Sheldon Epps. He is the senior artistic advisor at the Forest Theater. Make sure to pick up his memoir when it comes out this summer. Don't worry, I will remind you, especially those of y'all who are on our insider email list. I will be reminding you, if you want to get on that inside email list, just send me an email. You see my email right there on the screen, adents@sdrep.org. I'll make sure to keep you up on things. And make sure you come back and join us on June 13th when theater maker Yolanda Franklin will be joining us here on We Are Listening. Again, Sheldon, thank you so much for joining us. And a big shout out to Kevin, who is taking over the rounds as our producer here on We Are Listening, freeing me up to just be free in the conversation with y'all. I appreciate you, Kevin. Thank you for being on the team and doing the thing tonight. And again, Sheldon, thank you very much. Everybody, thank you so much. Make sure you listen to all of our old episodes. And if you want to see the precursor to this conversation, it's episode number 7 on YouTube and on Spotify. And thank you very much. Jacole, what do we tell the folks when we wrap this thing up?
Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you, Sheldon. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Great to see you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Take us home and close this thing out, man.